Hello, hello. Voice check 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. Anybody out there? Konnichiwa. How is everybody today? Welcome back, Kay. So I'm watching your success story here. It looks like you said you're able to introduce your dogs. That's great. I'm hoping you use the kore wa watashi no inu, or kore wa, puppy dog, or whatever your dog's name. It's great to hear, though. I'm glad to hear that you're using it. Okay, well, it's officially 5 o'clock. I just heard the 5 o'clock song in the background. It looks like the stream is working, which is good because I'm now broadcasting from a different computer, slightly better, slightly faster, and hopefully that means no technical difficulties. But if anything goes weird tonight, I want you guys to go ahead and let me know as soon as possible. And I tend to watch the chat now. I'm getting better at doing these broadcasts, so I'd appreciate any feedback along the way. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm glad to. I hope you do. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Fatherhood. Well, I'm sleeping a little bit more, or learning how to time my life around little boy's sleeping schedule. So, little by little. All right. Well, everyone, it's good to have you all back. And tonight we'll be doing Enough Japanese, Lesson 5. Minasan, konbanwa. Are you ready? Let's begin. Hajimemashou. That's let's begin in Japanese. So before I screw this up again, I'm going to make sure that I get the slides on the screen. So according to my screen on my computer, you should be able to see the slides. I'm going to give it a quick second to make sure the slides are up. All right. So, unlike last week where I was sleepy eyed and a little bit, oh, what's the word? I'm not even going to go there. So, this week we're going to be continuing on the discussion about adjectives and going a little bit more conversational with adjectives. So, let's go ahead and kick off the lesson. And as always, don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep getting more wonderful free Japanese lessons. I think they're wonderful. All right. So once again, this is lesson 5 of Enough Japanese, and today's focus, among other things, is about is this okay or is it not okay? So the scenario we're facing is you've probably been in a situation where you want to take a picture, right? We use some sign language, hand motion. Or you need to find out if you can maybe have something to drink from your friend's refrigerator, anything like that. You want to ask permission. And at first, I'm going to teach you the expression just to ask permission, but you're probably also going to have to use body language to get your point across. So for now, I want you to know how to ask for permission, but also if someone asks you for permission, like if you have a dog, can they pet the dog? If you're worried your dog's gonna bite them, or if you have a pet that doesn't do well with strangers and you want to tell them no, today we're going to cover things like that. So, is this okay? Is it okay? We're also going to learn some useful expressions on how to make your Japanese sound more natural, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. Okay? So again, ask and answer whether something is okay. And then we're also going to cover the negative forms of adjectives, the adjectives that we have been talking about for the last couple of lessons. So let's go ahead and kick it off. So first things first, 2 new adjectives that are going to be, especially one that's going to be important for today's discussion, is the adjective for good. And it seems a little strange to see these 2 letter I's. Remember, you're reading in Romaji. It sounds like this. E. E. So there's a longer vowel sound. And this can also be pronounced yoi. As in, for the New Year's greeting, you might have heard yoi otoshio. Yoi otoshio. Have a good New Year's. So it's most often used as E, but it can also be pronounced yoi. And the next one for today is the opposite of good is bad. Warui. Warui. And that can be used for evil or bad, anything the opposite of good. That's why I have the halo and the devil horns. So, I circled this hiragana. You can read this hiragana by now, right? I hope so. Last week I called attention to it. This is the hiragana E. And these adjectives are what kind of adjectives? Well, because they're an adjective that ends in the E hiragana, that makes them E adjectives. All right? Important to know as you go. Anybody know who this guy is, by the way? So, every once in a while in my daily life, I come across something that's like, oh, that's why in Japan this and that. Well, his name is Waruiji. And remember how in Japanese the L and R sounds are both represented by the Ru hiragana or katakana? So Waruiji is sort of a word play. And the day I learned this, I basically almost fell out of my chair. Waluigi. He's the bad Luigi. Duh. I hope that made your day, right? I don't know if you're a Mario guy or if you know who this is, but maybe you have kids or nephews or nieces or something. Waluigi. All right, let's move on to the conversation. I know not everyone's a gamer out there. So let's get conversational. One of the things as a beginner Japanese student that I think you can never start too early is working on mimicking how Japanese people talk. I mean, one thing that always drove me crazy when I went back to college and studied Japanese is how people talk like this when they practice. It sounds so obnoxious. Sorry, I know you're a new beginner. It's obnoxious to hear such rigid, tough sounding Japanese. In fact, my original teacher told me, wow, you talk so like plain and rigid. Well, that's what's in the book. So that's what I'm here for. Okay, we don't have a textbook. I can tell you anything I want. So today we're going to talk about beyond just the words I'm teaching you, and along with the expressions which I'm teaching you that are more natural, I want you to know that your tone matters. How you say and how you deliver the expressions and words. That matters a lot. In fact, it's going to make you more approachable and probably more enjoyable to hang out with. I mean, it gets a little tiring to hang out with that person who sounds like, I am Joe, I am from Boston. Like, we don't talk like that. So, point made? I hope so. In Japanese, one of the ways to be more expressive is the way you end the sentence, the sound at the very end of the sentence. And I highlighted this here. It works magic. It's magic in Japanese. How you end the sentence can completely change how something is taken. All right? Think about the opposite. In English, like, I really have to pee right now. Okay, quick, take a break, right? It's how we stress and add emphasis on particular words. In Japanese, a lot comes from the end of the sentence, and you're going to see that in just a moment. So let's take a look at some of the adjectives that we talked about last week. So, one of my favorite words, because I love Japanese food. Oishii. Remember that? Oishii. So, I'm going to add one easy little sound at the end of that. Oishii ne. Oishii ne. You hear how I rose my intonation there? It makes it into a question. And really what the ne does is sort of asks the listener for sort of approval or agreement. This is delicious, right? Oishii ne. Try that. Repeat after me. Oishii ne. Delicious, isn't it? And I know some Americans, we're used to saying, it's good, right? Right? Huh? So, ne is effectively doing the exact same thing. Isn't it? Right? So it's a really powerful expression. Let's just put it to practice real quick. And I know we did this last week, but I want to really pound the point home that ending this sentence, ending the expression, really changes the meaning. And don't forget to sound a little enthusiastic if you're complimenting the cuteness of a baby like we're about to do. So, remember, kawaii. Kawaii ne? Kawaii ne? Okay? That sort of positive, bright facial expression really complements this expression, okay? If you just say, kawaii ne, I'm not convinced that's what you mean. So, remember, say it how you mean it and mean how you say it, okay? Put some meaning in that. All right? And once again, to translate that into English, cute, isn't he? Right? We don't even have to use the noun. We don't have to say, the boy is cute, isn't he? Because in Japanese, the subject can be what? Omitted. Bingo. All right, another one. You got a Maserati or what was this? I can't remember. It's hard to tell. It's so little. Takai. Takai is expensive. What are we going to say? It's expensive, isn't it? How would you say that? I hope you said takai ne. Takai ne. Remember, raising the intonation there works wonders. It's like seeking agreement. Okay, takai ne. And that in English, of course, means expensive, isn't it? Or expensive, right? I could never afford that car. Unless this YouTube thing goes viral, and then I hope. All right, next. Who are my spicy fans out there? So we got Koko Ichiban, I know, level 10. Karai. Karai ne. Karai ne, level 10 is spicy, right? Isn't it? Okay, so hopefully by now you've seen the power of ne. But what if someone pulls that card on you and they're like, kawaii ne, and you want to reply back to them. So, This is at a restaurant. We got these great hot cheese dipped chicken wings. And all I can think of, remember the more masculine way to say delicious? Umai. Umai. Okay, so you're sitting there, and that really masculine guy on the rugby team sitting next to you goes, hey, this chicken is super delicious, right? So how do you say that in Japanese? Remember, this chicken. So, kono chicken, the chicken, close to me. Kono chicken wa umai ne. Umai ne, right? So putting it all together, the chicken in front of me, the one close to me, kono chicken wa umai ne. And that's the whole sentence. And then there's a few ways you can reply to that, and let's look at how this works, okay? So you can pull the it is, isn't it? So desu ne. So desu ne, like, yeah, this is good chicken. So desu ne. Notice how in this one you didn't say anything about chicken or umai. This is just the it is, isn't it? And then you have the more casual, so da ne. So da ne. And that's more for your friends. And then last week after the class, in our little breakout discussion, somebody brought up this one. Ne. You can literally just say ne. So check it out. I'm saying this is good chicken, and you're just going to be like, ne, right? Kono chicken wa umai ne. Ne. Exactly. And that's really powerful because that's just like saying, right? Right? Sometimes short and sweet is really the way to go. So, and I've kind of hidden this here, but there you go. On the scale here, the longer expressions are more polite, generally in Japanese, and the shorter expressions are more casual. And that's sort of a general rule as we go. So keep that in mind. Alrighty? So, let's move on. Another conversational expression, okay? We just saw that ne does the isn't it or right. Well, there's another one out there, and this ending is going to add assurance to the listener. Like, I assure you this is good. I assure you that's great. Like, be convinced, okay? This is your Donald Trump going, believe me, believe me. And it adds enthusiasm too. Some people liken it to putting an exclamation point at the end of a sentence. So let's try this one. Have you heard it before? Okay, we have spicy. Karai yo. Karai yo. Like if somebody's like unsure, hey, is this karai? Kore wa karai? And you want them to be assured, yes, that is spicy. Karai yo. Karai yo. That's all there is to it. So basically adding yo at the end there adds emphasis and enthusiasm the same way that saying like, it's really spicy. It works a lot like that. Just an exclamation point. Okay? So, karai yo is a lot like saying, this is spicy. You see how I underline italics the way we do that in English? I assure you. Okay? This is spicy. All right, let's try a couple, just like we did on the previous slide. So, first, hey, this car, I know you look at it and you're like, yeah, it's obviously cheap. I don't know if you can see the rust on it and the fact that the window's kind of broke, but yasui yo. Yasui yo. Now, when translating, okay, interpreters and people, they can sort of add a little bit of sauce, a little poetry on this one. Yo, because it doesn't really exist in English. So let's try a few. You're going to see with each translation, I'm going to put a little in the parentheses how you might interpret it, okay? It's cheap. Like this car, you might think it's cheap. It's even cheaper than that. It's cheaper than you think. So that's how powerful this is, right? It adds that emphasis. Okay? Next. You got this James Dean looking guy, remember? Kakkoi, like handsome, cool looking car, a cool looking boat, or a handsome guy. I guess girls, smartly dressed could be kakkoi as well. It's It's not a gender specific thing. More often used with guys though. All right. Kakoiyo. Kakoiyo. Sorry, the kind of sounded weird. Kakoiyo. Okay? He's handsome. Like he's a looker. A real hunk. Okay? So again, be a little creative when you're translating. You may get there someday where you want to translate. Hey, don't just say like, yes, he is very handsome. All right, that's boring. All right, now we have this Vladimir Putin weird emo guy, kawaii. Kawaii. Remember, it's not kawaii, that's cute. It's kawaii. All right, how would you say he's scary? He is scary, I assure you. Kawaii yo. Kawaii yo. And he's scary, like a creep. Believe me. Believe me. Alrighty. So, let's break this yo into our conversational Japanese. Okay, so here we got a guy watching his friends struggle, eating those habanero chips over there. Alrighty. Are those spicy? Are those spicy? Now, I remember I called back the listener. Those are closer to the listener. So what would you use? Kore, sore, or are? Alright, I hope you said sore. And then to ask if they're spicy, you would just say, sore wa karai, right? Or if you're being polite, sore wa karai desu ka? Sore wa karai desu ka? And by the look on this guy's face, alright, he's going to come back with a, let me assure you they're spicy, okay? Now we're going to work from polite down to casual again. Karai desu yo. Karai desu yo. Okay? Or we could also substitute so desu yo. Remember how that you can use so desu yo or so desu ne for anything? Or you could say karai desu yo, right? So desu yo. And then to bring it down to a more casual level, so da yo. So da yo. All right? Again, we're building reassurance to the person as the speaker that, yes, I assure you, these are spicy. All right? And once again, I got a little bit in the way here, but of course, you could see this sort of upside down pyramid. Longer expressions, polite on top, and then shorter expressions tend to be more casual. So on the bottom there. Alrighty. So let's move on. Alright. So let's add a little bit of flavor. Again, the goal today is not just teaching you more Japanese words, but to sound more natural. So what if you want to say something's just a little spicy or it's really spicy? So let's talk about the scale here, kind of from 0% all the way up to 100%. Okay, like it's spicy for a baby, or this is spicy to somebody from Central America who raises jalapeno peppers or something. I don't know. Okay, so let's talk about just a bit. Just a bit. You probably heard this one out and about. Chotto. So if it's a little spicy, chotto karai. Chotto karai. Just a little. Or it could also be chotto dake. Chotto dake. Alright, but let's try one more time. Chotto karai. Chotto karai. Or was that expensive? Do you remember how to say expensive? Takai, right? Chotto takai. Just a little bit expensive. Alright? It's the brand new Honda Civic instead of the, BMW or whatever, the 7 Series. Okay? Now, jumping into a little bit more, I guess you could say this is between 0 and 50 still. Skoshi. Skoshi. Skoshi karai. Alright? You put this before any adjective, really. Okay? Now this one, I wouldn't necessarily say so. Okay, basically what happened here is we have so-so. They took that from English, so-so. It's a 50-50, right? Is it spicy? So-so. If you like spicy food, it's probably not that spicy, okay? So this is more of an answer to, それは辛いですか? And you don't want to say, 少し, you could just say, so-so. And actually, Japanese people say so-so sometimes, okay? Or, ma. I like that one a lot. Not like your mother, right? But ma. And so mama is an expression that's sort of like It's not a lot, it's not a little. Ma ma. Did you have fun yesterday? Ma ma. So if you use it at that sort of conversation, people are going to think that you probably didn't have fun. You see what I'm saying? So be careful how you use the ma ma. All right? Now, moving towards the very extreme, right? You have mecha. And a lot of people say this comes from Kansai. People argue about where it comes from. It's slang though. Mecha karai. Okay? What if you got something on discount? It was supposed to be $1,000, but it was, you know, an open package and someone, you know, bought it, but then they decided they didn't need it and they just sold it to you, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, man, this is really cheap. Mecha yasui. Mecha yasui. Okay? So adding these in front of adjectives, it's like an adverb, right? Mecha yasui. Or something like, hey, how much was your trip down to Okinawa? Mecha takai. Mecha takai. Too expensive. And then we also have cho. Cho. And this is like extremely, very, exceedingly. This kanji I think means to go over something. It's exaggerated. Cho, okay? So for spicy, again, we're just sticking with this theme. Cho karai. Like, be careful. Cho karai. Alrighty? So, and again, the way it works is just an adverb. So it's going to precede the adjective. So you just need to fill the box to the left. See, I tend to use this notation for adjectives, right? The A for adjective, and this is the E adjective. So we just need to put a little thing in the box. So in this case, chotto yasui. It was a little bit cheap. Or mecha yasui. It was extremely cheap. Cool? Now there's a lot more of these. If you have questions about ones you might have heard, or you want to be like even more, you know, exaggerating, like there's also mecha kucha umai, mecha kucha umai. Like that is extremely delicious, right? Okay, so I'm always in the mood for your questions. Feel free to ask me anytime. For now, since I don't see any questions, I'm just going to move on. And the second point of today was asking if something is okay. And again, there's a lot of things that can precede this that are more advanced Japanese. So today, I want you to think about this as asking for if something is okay, but then using your body language like, well, we'll get to it. Okay, here we go. So, we use the word good, e, right? E. And we can also use E, remember, was good. There's also one that tends to mimic sort of what the English word for okay or all right is. And again, a lot of people use this every day. You may have heard it. Daijoubu. Daijoubu. So at its most basic casual conversational level, E, is it good? Or daijoubu? Daijoubu, is it okay? But here's, in case you have to ask permission around town with people maybe you don't know so well. So let's go through the list real quick. So first things first, we have ii desu ka? Ii desu ka? Remember that sort of springboard voice inflection that you have to make? Ii desu ka? It's like a springboard. Ii desu ka? And what that's really asking in translated into English would be like, is that good or is that all right? Is that all right? Ii desu ka? So, for example, you know, you're at your friend's house and you see these honey roasted peanuts and you want to eat them. And we don't know how to say, is it okay if I eat this yet? So you're just going to say, ii desu ka? You can use some body language, okay? Ii desu ka? Simple as that. Okay? And then another thing, it works, I would say this next expression works everywhere ii desu ka does, and it also has another meaning. So let's try it real quick. Daijoubu desu ka? Daijoubu desu ka? Remember the springboard there? And that's like more like saying, is it okay? Are you okay? Is it okay? All right. And then it also works, for example, if you watch somebody bump their head on something, or they tripped, or they dropped something, and you want to check on them, the individual, you would also be able to say, daijoubu desu ka? Daijoubu desu ka? And in that case, to show that you care and you're worried, you should also be sure to sound a little bit stressed, right? 大丈夫ですか? Yamamoto-san, 大丈夫ですか? Alrighty? So these are kind of the two ways that you would ask for permission. And for now, because there's just so much Japanese to learn for each case, just remember these two and then use your body language, okay? All right. Now, how would you answer if somebody asked you, right? They're in your kitchen and, they see something and they're probably hungry or thirsty and they just ask if they can do something. And maybe you didn't understand the first part, but they would say something like, これ食べてもいいですか? これ食べてもいいですか? And you're like, well, he's holding the honey roasted peanuts and then he asks something, いいですか? Probably wants to eat them. Hopefully doesn't want to take them home, right? これ持ち帰ってもいいですか? Well, be careful, but you would be able to say, go ahead if you want to, and this is how we would do that. So, on the more polite expression first, and we'll work our way to casual. いいですよ. いいですよ. And again, remember what that yo does? Remember how I said it sort of adds assurance to the listener? So your responsibility here is, if you just said いいです, いいです, it's kind of like, oh, is it really okay if I eat, Scott's honey roasted peanuts? Now you want to say いいですよ, いいですよ, and that yo is sort of like the nice cherry on top, like, yes, it's really okay for you to have these roasted peanuts. I wish I had a better prop, I'm sorry. いいですよ. Or the more casual way, if someone said いい? これ食べていい? And you heard at the end, remember, いい? Question. You would just say いいよ. いいよ. Also, I've heard people say どうぞ. どうぞ. You might have heard that before. It just means go ahead, right? So いいですよ or いいよ. どうぞ. In English, that's fine, or just go ahead, or yeah, yes, you may. So you're giving permission. And then more on the okay, like, are you okay? Are things okay? Is everything okay? Tends to use the expression 大丈夫ですよ. 大丈夫ですよ. Okay? And that means, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And again, it has the des, so therefore it's polite. All right, but if you're getting a little more casual, it turns into 大丈夫だよ, 大丈夫だよ. Or you could just be like 大丈夫, 大丈夫. Okay, and again, that's okay or no problem. Or in that previous situation, if you're the person who bumped your head and someone asks you 大丈夫ですか? Then you could say 大丈夫ですよ, 大丈夫ですよ. Like, I'm fine. Thank you for asking, right? ありがとう, すみません, すみません. Right? Sumimasen you would say is sort of a sorry to cause you trouble, sorry to cause concern. 大丈夫ですよ, sumimasen, sumimasen. Cool, right? And then here's those times where things are not okay, and the expression is dame. Okay? Now you may also see Japanese people hold up the cross arms, and this, right? Cross. And you see that it says NG. Japanese love to use these little abbreviations. NG for no good. And therefore, just be familiar with this symbol. That just means, hey, sorry, no, that's not allowed. Dame desu yo. Dame desu yo is when, you have to tell somebody, hey, that's not okay. But you're trying to be polite about it. So don't worry, this won't sound rude or anything like that. Sometimes you have to say, like, if someone, again, if you have a dog who's maybe a little bit snippy and likes to bite, and someone like, 犬座ってもいいですか? Like, can I touch your dog? And then you have to say, ダメですよ, ダメですよ. Okay? Don't feel bad, okay? That's your right to deny somebody permission. So, ダメですよ. And if it's your friend and they're like, walking into your house and they're still wearing their shoes and you're like, hey man, not cool, dame da yo, dame da yo. Okay, take your shoes off, point at the shoes, right? You got to use your body language, point at the shoes, dame da yo. That's not okay, right? That's not okay. You have to stop. All right, and Lars, your comment, basashi o tabete ii desu ka? Basashi is raw horse. Is it okay to eat raw horse? I've heard people have been getting sick. Maybe not. Dame desu yo. Dame desu yo. That's, yeah. I appreciate you watching, Lars. I think your advanced Japanese will be helpful. Okay, now, just a quick touch on the 4 parts of speech because we need to go back to this one more time. Okay, we have our nouns, person, place, thing, idea. We have our verbs, the action, word, and the sentence. We have adjectives. In Japanese, there are 2 types. Which were they? Okay, we have e and na adjectives. Na and e adjectives, okay? So nouns, I'm going to notate with a capital N. Verbs, when we get there, I'm going to make with a capital V. And once again, just a little more zoomed in on the adjectives. Na adjectives, don't worry about that. Na adjectives, I'll notate with na and then the hiragana na. And e adjectives, as you saw in a previous slide, capital A with the e hiragana. Okay? So, again, today we're going to continue to focus on e adjectives. All right? And just for now, just remember there's 2. And until I say there's na adjectives, we're only going to talk about e adjectives. And once again, e adjectives end in the hiragana e. That's how they are in the dictionary. That's how you look them up. Okay? So, there are, therefore, because there are 4 types of speech, there are 4 types of negatives. I'm going to make this a little smaller here. And we'll talk more about sentence structure later on, but I want you to know, okay, that there's 4 types of sentences: noun, na adjective, e adjective, and verbs. And therefore, there's 4 types of negatives, and they're the same class of sentences. And note, though, the theme here is that they all end in nai. So nai, when you hear nai, is negative in Japanese. The negative of a verb, the negative of a noun, or an adjective. Okay? And today, again, we're going to focus on the e adjectives to make the negative of the e adjectives. Okay, so first let's look at the affirmative. Remember how we did that? So we have the subject on the left, could be anything, person, place, or thing. Something wa, and then some e adjective, just like that. And that means as for the subject, it is, he is, she is, they are, something, okay? So here is my example from last week. And just for a refresher, okay? This is what? A baby, and that is akachan. And the baby is cute. Akachan wa kawaii. Akachan wa kawaii. So, as for babies, they are cute, right? Remember that? Cute is an attribute of the baby. That's what the wa does. So, babies are cute in easy terms. Let's look at the negative e adjectives and how do we make a negative e adjective. It's really simple. And once you know this sentence structure and this conjugation, you're going to be so happy that it's more simple than easier than English, okay? Because there's really only 1 or 2 exceptions. So let's check it out. So the subject, wa. Now, here is that e adjective again, but we're going to conjugate it. We're going to transform it. This is how we do it. Are you ready? We're going to get rid of the last e hiragana, and then we're going to replace it with kunai. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to say it one more time. You're going to take the e adjective that you know, like karai or yasui or takai. You're going to chop off that last e and change it to kunai. So we're going to do a few examples, and that'll help calm your nerves here. Okay, so as for the subject, it, he, she is not something. So not that adjective. Okay, so the rule here, once again, the last e becomes ku, and then we add nai, because nai is the negative. Nai is the universal negative maker. So let's take a look at our chicken example, okay? And this is going to be painful for me because I think chicken is delicious, but here we go. Chicken, or 鶏肉 wa oishii. Okay, so do you remember the rule now? We're going to chop off the last e and change it to ku and then add that nai. Oishikunai. Okay? Oishii, oishikunai. Oishikunai. Pretty simple. I just want to leave that up on the screen for 1 second. Okay, so really what that's saying is the chicken is not delicious. Not delicious. So as for chicken, remember, chicken wa, that's as for chicken, and then oishikunai, it's not delicious. So in simple terms, delicious is something that chicken is not. So this is how you disagree with somebody in Japanese. When they say, natto wa oishii. Have you had natto, the fermented soybeans? Natto wa oishii. And you're like, natto wa oishikunai. Oishikunai. Okay, don't argue with people you don't know very well. Just be like, okay. Chotto oishii. Chotto oishii. Just a little delicious. Be a passive-aggressive Japanese learner, okay? All right, so let's try several examples. Okay, back to the car example. All right, now this is all relative, okay? I, as a E5 in the Navy, bought this car for a whopping $500. To me, seems pretty cheap. But that might not be cheap for a high school freshman or something who just saved up their part-time, salary for the last 6 months. Still don't have $500. Okay, so they might say $500 is not cheap. So let's look at this. First we have yasui, right? Yasui. So how do we make yasui into not cheap? Not cheap. Remember, chop off that last e, make it ku, and then add nai. Yasu kunai. Okay, repeat after me one more time. Yasukunai. Yasukunai. Pretty easy, right? Okay, now we have the kind person who's giving the seat to the grandmother on the train. Yasashi. Yasashi. Okay, so we're going to make that negative. What do we have to do? Now, notice how in hiragana you would see that there's actually 4 characters here. Ya, sa, shi, i. Ya, sa, shi, i. So this e is part of shi, so we don't cut that off. We're just going to cut off the last e, Therefore, it's going to go yasashikunai. Yasashikunai. Try it. Okay, one more time for good measure. Yasashikunai. And sometimes the shi, she, can sound like sh. So, yasashikunai. Try that. That's more like casual, cool sounding. Yasashikunai. Okay? And then here we have our scary guy. But what if you're like really into emo and heavy eyeshadow and you thought, he's not scary at all. I don't know what you're into. Kawaii. All right? No, Scott, he's not scary. So we're going to take kawaii. Give you a second to do this in your head. Remember, chop off the last e and change to kunai. Kawakunai. Kawakunai. The haunted house at Disney World was kawakunai. Kawakunai. All right. Now, this one will be hard for me to say, but maybe you're not into babies, so maybe you disagree. My baby is cute. Akachan wa kawaii. Akachan wa kawaii. Let's say the whole sentence, okay? Akachan wa kawaii. Okay, again, this is for hiragana. You have ka, wa, i, e. We only cut off the last e, so it's going to sound like this. Kawaii kunai. Kawaii kunai. Akachan wa kawaii kunai. And I will disagree with you. I think they are cute. Akachan wa kawaii. Okay. Now, you might be a millionaire. So this car in the picture here is not expensive. Well, a billionaire, how about? This is not an expensive car to you, so you're going to disagree with me. Kono kuruma, this car, この車は高い. And chop off the e, change to ku, add nai, 高くない. 高くない. この車は高くない. Next we have karai. So maybe you eat level 10 at Coco all the time and today you feeling a 5 and someone's like, wow, karai. Karai ne. And you're like, no, it's not karai. Kara kunai. So hopefully as I was going through each of those adjectives, the more we practiced, the more you felt comfortable and were able to finish before I even got to that part. All right? Yeah, Lars said whale meat is not that delicious either. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the one exception. The one exception to the rule that I know about, and that goes back to the very first word we talked about on slide 1, which was, remember this? E, which is good. And it can also be pronounced yoi, and that's important to note here because we're going to focus, when we make the negative of e, we can only use yoi. And I think it's because of the way it sounds if you tried to say ikunai, okay? So actually what happens is we don't change e into the negative. We change yoi into the negative. Therefore, yoi, I'll give you a second, right? Drop the last e, change to ku, boom, yokunai, yokunai. Did that make sense? So again, almost I feel like every adjective that I've ever learned, every e adjective I've learned in Japanese, this rule works perfectly for. So now that you know that, you can make negatives of any adjective you ever heard. So let me just throw one at you, okay? Lately it's been hot. Hot in Japanese is atsui. 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 How would you make atsui into a negative? So today is not hot, right? Someone might be like, oh, it's warm. I just came from Hokkaido, where it's still snowing. But you're here. You've been here. So this is relative. Hey, it's not atsui. It's not atsui. It's atsukunai, right? Atsukunai. Okay? So on the flip side, you're talking to that person from Hokkaido who just got here, and you know, we had beautiful 25 degrees Celsius, and now we're down to like 15. So the word for cold is samui. Samui. How would you make samui into negative? You're the person from Hokkaido. It's not cold. It's not cold. Hokkaido's cold. All right? It's samukunai. Samukunai. I hope you were able to get that one. Okay? So I want to do a quick demonstration. And again, this is just once again to highlight that everything is relative. To some people, some food is spicy. To some people, it's not. To some people, you know, drink sizes in Japan are small, but to the Japanese, you know, maybe not. So let me see if I can do a quick demonstration. All right. So here, oops, sorry, I hit too hard here. Oh. Where did it go? Okay, sorry about that. So here are some more adjectives that we talked about last week. We have small, chisai, chisai, and large, oki, oki. All right. Now I have in my possession here the smallest Japanese McDonald's cup and the largest American McDonald's cup, because we have both options here on the base and off base. So this is a Japanese small, and this is an American big or large. Okay. Then we have, this is an American medium, and this is a Japanese large. So let's just think about this real quick, okay? Japanese large. The Japanese person might say, これは大きい. これは大きい. And you want to say, no, it's not big. It's not big. At least not to me. Remember, drop that last E sound. 大きくない. 大きくない. Okay? So you want to disagree with that person? Remember, cut off the last hiragana E here. Change to kunai. 大きくない. Now, again, this is the American small, and this is the Japanese small. It's like a kid size, okay? So the American would say, oh my gosh, well, this is small. This is small. これは小さい. これは小さい. And the Japanese person would say, hey, that's almost as big as our large, dang near. So, 小さい, okay? It ends in E, right? So we're going to drop the last E. 小さくない. 小さくない. Okay? So, again, these are all relative terms, and I want you to try to go out there and practice them with Japanese people. One more thing I forgot to put on the slide for some reason, and a lot of people in Japanese language will use the negative as sort of a, isn't it too big? Isn't it too expensive? Okay, so you would use the negative to ask somebody a question like, isn't that too expensive? So here you are, you're the American guy, you've got this huge drink, okay? Oki. But the Japanese person might look at that and say, Okikunai? Okikunai? So they'll ask the negative as a question to sort of reflect at you, isn't that big? Is that not big? So you're going to say, Okay, so they say okikunai? Okikunai? And you might be like, no, this isn't that big. A big gulp at 7-Eleven is 40 ounces. Okikunai. Okikunai. Okay? But if you say, they're looking at you like you're the pig and you're like, yeah, it is pretty big, isn't it? So, okikunai, right? Compared to this, okikunai, and you say, so desu ne, so desu ne. It is, isn't it? Right? So that's the power, remember, of that ne. So desu ne. It is big, isn't it, after all? Okay? So that is what I had for today. It's the end of lesson 5. So once again, starting this week and going on into next week, we have Japanese Golden Week. And I hope you had a chance to watch my little fun in Tokyo Yoyogi Park. Lars, who keeps commenting here on the chat, helped me film this video, I believe. Weren't you there, Lars? So I know he and I would both appreciate it if you go back and watch it. It's just kind of funny to see what the Japanese say about Golden Week, and I had fun, so I hope you'll watch it. Meanwhile, I haven't been able to make homework for last week, but I'll go ahead and make homework for this week and give you a chance to practice these expressions. And so please remember to subscribe and come back next week. We'll take this to the next level on lesson 6. Hope you have a good Golden Week, and I will see you next week. And then for those of you who are still here and want to do the Teams session, you should have the Teams link in the email, so I'll go ahead and log into Teams now. Other than that, I hope you have a good day, and see you next week. Bye.